Welcome to the debate. Today, we're confronting, well, arguably the deepest question in deep space, one that really shakes our understanding of our own existence: the Fermi paradox. If the universe is 13.8 billion years old, and it contains at least 200 billion galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars, then statistically, advanced life shouldn't just be abundant, it should be everywhere, and it should be obvious. So where is everybody?
And that is the absolute core of it. Our disagreement today really hinges on the cause of this profound silence. So the question is this: should we primarily attribute the lack of contact to a deliberate, organized avoidance policy from advanced alien civilizations, what some call the cosmic zoo hypothesis?
Or, and this is where you come in, should we explain it a different way?
Exactly. While the sheer scale you cite is, it's undeniable, I maintain that the lack of detection stems not from some kind of external control or an imposed policy of silence, but from our own inherent terrestrial limitations. Limitations in our technology and, frankly, our perception. Before we jump to the conclusion that someone is intentionally hiding from us, we need to rigorously question our own fundamental ability to even see the universe for what it is.
Right. So I'll be arguing that the silence is an active decision. It's imposed, it's strategic, and it reflects the judgment of entities far, far older and more capable than we are.
And I'll be maintaining that the silence is simply a reflection of our own primitive sensory tools, a technological mismatch so vast that we are currently incapable of bridging it. Our failure to detect them is a failure of our physics, not a failure of galactic politics.
Okay, so my core stance is that the odds of advanced life arising are just so astronomical that the concept of life and intelligent life it's statistically unavoidable. When you map out the history of the cosmos, 13.8 billion years of chemical evolution across 200 billion galaxies, the utter and sustained silence, it just requires a unifying explanation, something that goes far beyond mere chance or temporary technological hiccups. And for me, the evidence points to an active management system. If intelligence is possible here, on Earth, it should be everywhere. Yet there is no grand sign of it.
So the most parsimonious explanation is that these highly developed civilizations are aware of our presence and are deliberately maintaining a quarantine perimeter. The source material captures this perfectly, suggesting they may have visited long ago, that they're watching, and maybe they think we're too dangerous. We are, by cosmic standards, literally babies. The silence, in this context, it's a policy choice. It's designed to manage our volatile development.
That is a very compelling argument, and it's built on that idea of statistical inevitability. But I would counter that, immediately assuming imposed silence is, well, frankly, it's an exercise in intellectual hubris. Your conclusion rests on the assumption that if they are out there, we should be able to detect them with our current toolkit. We are basing this whole conclusion on what we can perceive with technology that is fundamentally limited by our current understanding of physics. So my core stance is that the silence is really a reflection of our profound scientific ignorance and our primitive technology. Consider the simple, stunning fact that we know 95% of the universe is invisible to us: dark matter and dark energy.
Sure. The dark sector is a huge unknown.
Exactly. So, if our science cannot even detect the fundamental bulk of the cosmos, how can we possibly assume we could detect communications or technology that is literally millions of years ahead of us? We are dealing with a fundamental incompatibility. Perhaps, as the text suggests, they speak of frequency we can't hear, or they use forms of energy we have yet to even discover. The problem is a lack of perceptual capability on our side, not a lack of willingness to communicate on theirs.
I acknowledge the limitation of our tech, certainly, but the sheer abundance of strange, uniquely evolved worlds that argues forcefully against the idea that every single civilization would converge on a technological path that is perfectly invisible to us. Look at the immense variety just within our current telescope range. We know about bizarre places like 55 Cancri E, the so-called diamond planet, or HD 189733b, a world where the atmosphere rains molten glass sideways. These planets demonstrate that chemistry, geology, atmospheric conditions, they evolve in ways we never predicted. and that leads to wildly different evolutionary paths. This diversity, it strongly suggests that the resulting intelligent life and their technological outputs should be just as diverse.
Okay, but diversity doesn't guarantee visibility.
Well, if life is this abundant and varied across 200 billion galaxies, the activity of say, a Type 3 civilization, one capable of harnessing the energy of an entire galaxy, that should be detectable through gross astrophysical observations, even if they aren't using radio waves. We should see evidence of immense, large-scale engineering. I mean, imagine the energy requirements. We should be observing manipulated stellar orbits, rearranged nebulae, or maybe structures that are literally moving stars like chess pieces. The fact that we detect zero evidence of this large-scale interstellar infrastructure implies a powerful, unifying suppression mechanism. Abundance plus silence demands intentional control. The zoo.
I'm sorry, I just don't buy the abundance guarantees detectability argument. You are still thinking in terms of mechanical, physical evidence based on our current understanding of energy transfer. You are looking for the cosmic equivalent of rockets and steam engines when the actual technology might be closer to, well, bending space. Let's not confuse sheer scale with simplicity.
Okay, explain what you mean by bending space.
If advanced civilizations have unlocked physics far beyond our comprehension, they wouldn't necessarily rely on visible electromagnetic manipulation or kinetic forces. The material discusses advanced spaceships that might operate by manipulating physics utilizing warp drives. A warp drive, for instance, doesn't move through space, it moves space around it. This type of activity involves manipulating the fabric of space-time itself, not emitting a conventional energy signal we'd pick up. We are searching for an analog radio signal in what is likely a vastly complex, digital, relativistic universe. One that's using technologies that are inherently stealthy by design, not because they're intentionally hiding, but because the technology itself is based on manipulating reality in a way we cannot measure yet.
And to go further, you attribute intent, a political decision, to the silence. But I attribute a deep, inherent structure to the universe itself. We have to seriously consider that there are entire realms of existence that are wholly inaccessible to us, not because aliens are preventing us from seeing them, but because we fundamentally lack the tools. We are talking about the potential for billions of dark matter planets and even dark matter galaxies. These are non-baryonic structures that are, literally occupying 95% of reality, but are utterly blind to our current instruments.
Right.
So if entire civilizations could arise and thrive within that dark sector, undetected and perhaps fundamentally undetectable by visible matter instruments like ours, how can we possibly conclude that this silence is due to a perimeter being maintained? The silence is explained by our limited access to a reality that is intrinsically opaque to us, not a conscious choice by an external force. Our search is inherently constrained by what we can look for, and right now, that is a vanishingly small slice of reality.
That's a fascinating point. And yeah, the mystery of the dark sector is certainly the greatest challenge to my position. However, I would frame the issue of capability differently. The beings we're discussing, those capable of Type 3 scale engineering, they're not just slightly better engineers than us. They are potentially capable of leveraging technologies that seem magical to us now. The source material references them utilizing black holes as potential portals, or even storing information in them like a cosmic hard drive.
Right, manipulating gravity itself.
Exactly. Entities capable of managing time and space on that level, harnessing gravitational singularities, would be masters of perception and information transfer. So my point is this. If they wanted to communicate in a way that bridged that 95% perceptual gap, if they desired contact, even just to study our reaction, they absolutely could. They could generate a single, massive, unambiguous, highly energetic, intentional beacon visible across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. The technology required to manipulate spacetime is also the technology required to guarantee detection, if that is their goal.
You're assuming they want to be detected.
Well, I'm assuming that the absence of that guaranteed signal means something. The non-detection isn't just a failure of our physics, it is a profound policy decision based on a collective judgment. They have assessed us, our instability, our capacity for violence, our scientific maturity, and decided that we are either too primitive or too dangerous or too unstable to be introduced into the galactic neighborhood. The technological capability to communicate is assumed, which means the choice not to is deliberate.
Okay, but you're assuming that the goal of a million-year-old civilization is always to be seen by a species that's only a few thousand years old. Let's focus on that massive age gap again to properly understand the problem. We are comparing our entire recorded human history to 13.8 billion years of universal history. That temporal ratio is just catastrophic for our assumption of relevance or even detectability. Entities operating on cosmic scales, those aware of the universe's ultimate fate, whether it's heat death, big crunch, or big rip, would communicate and operate using processes so far removed from visible or even common electromagnetic frequencies. Their entire technological paradigm would be centered on longevity, energy efficiency, and information preservation across vast cosmic timescales. Our perception, limited by our short evolutionary context, is searching for a loud noise in the forest, while they may be communicating through, subtle manipulations of quantum fields.
So it's just a mismatch.
It's a fundamental physical and evolutionary gap. They're using a higher physics that we have not yet developed the instruments or the theoretical framework to even conceive of, let alone detect. You are asking why a PhD physicist won't speak to a toddler in complex mathematical theory, and then concluding the physicist is actively avoiding the toddler. But the physicist is speaking just in a language the toddler has no mechanism to decode.
I appreciate the analogy, I do, but it simplifies the issue of diversity. If this massive temporal gap guarantees that all advanced civilizations operate in a universally undetectable manner, that suggests, A, an unlikely convergence of technological paths. And while I can see the profound technological and temporal gap, we are indeed cosmic babies. If these beings can move stars like chess pieces, they've transcended mere fundamental physics. Their actions are strategic, not just reactive physics. And this is the heart of my disagreement. Why must every single intelligent species across 200 billion galaxies arrive at the exact same, perfectly invisible technology?
Well, maybe it's just the most efficient outcome of physics.
Is it? It feels like a statistical improbability. Wouldn't some cultures, maybe those motivated by sheer curiosity or even ego, leave a massive clear marker? If even one Type 2 civilization, one that harnesses the energy of its home star, if just one of them failed to adopt this universally invisible paradigm and instead broadcast it widely, we would have detected them. The most parsimonious explanation for the universal silence, a silence that holds across the entire observable cosmos, is that there is an organized intelligence maintaining it. The idea that every single advanced civilization happens to converge on a technological path that is perfectly undetectable to us is statistically less likely than the idea that a high-level authority, the Galactic Neighborhood Association, has collectively decided on a non-interference principle. The zoo is an active, strategic choice.
But you're assuming these Type 3 civilizations think like humans, measuring success in visible, gargantuan outputs. What if, upon reaching that level of advancement, the most efficient and strategic action is minimum detectable output? If you can manipulate space-time, you don't need a massive radio beacon. You need precision. Furthermore, who is this centralized authority capable of organizing a unified zoo policy across 200 billion galaxies? That requires a coordination mechanism that itself should be detectable, an interstellar government of staggering size. The silence itself is the evidence that such a vast coordinating body may not exist, and instead the common outcome of hyper-advanced physics is simply invisibility to primitive observers like us. We're not in a zoo. We're just standing on the wrong side of a one-way mirror made of physics.
To summarize my position then, the statistical certainty of advanced life coupled with the profound technological capabilities they might possess, the ability to manipulate space, time, and matter itself, it all points strongly toward a unifying, deliberate decision to observe humanity from a distance. The cosmic zoo, maintained either for protection, scientific observation, or judgment, it remains the most logical deduction for the profound and great silence we observe today. The alternative just requires an unlikely statistical convergence of invisibility across all advanced species.
And conversely, I maintain that the reality that 95% of the cosmos remains fundamentally undetectable to our current science, the dark matter and dark energy we can measure but not see, combined with the truly exotic nature of the universe's most advanced physics, well, that compels us to attribute the silence to our own underdeveloped senses and scientific framework. We are looking for simple signals when the universe offers complex, hidden realities like dark matter structures and space-time manipulation. We must first account for our inability to detect the universe before we conclude the universe is intentionally hiding from us through a policy of non-interference.
The source material confirms that whether the underlying mechanism is external control or mere cosmic obscurity, the mystery of the Fermi paradox remains vast and essential to our understanding of our place in the cosmos.
Indeed. Whether the universe is hiding something or something is merely hiding in the universe because our tools are inadequate, the question of galactic civilization continues to drive our greatest scientific endeavors.